You're listening to the One Step Deeper podcast with your host, Jimmy Moore and Brittany Davis. OneStepDeeperPodcast.com.
I don't see you wear a lot of jewelry. You got hoop earrings on. You got the long necklace on.
I usually can't be bothered.
One more time.
I usually can't be bothered.
Well, you do bother to at least brush your hair and put on some lashes and stuff. But now, yeah, you made decor today. You're getting all fancy for our final episode of 2021. That's what you're doing today.
That was literally it. I was like, this is going to be the last one that's going to air. I'm a little sad. I think I'll dress up kind of nice today.
There you go. And meanwhile, Jimmy's still in a cowboy shirt, short and barefoot is what I am right now.
Hey, consistency, okay? We're all about consistency.
Yes. But guys, yeah, this is our last episode of 2021. This is airing basically the week of Thanksgiving. And so I'm taking off the whole month of December from all of my podcasts, which includes this one. But Brittany and I already planned to not be here because life's a little busy for a mom of 3 little munchkins around the holidays. So we're going to enjoy our time off. We're actually finishing up our book as well. So the One Step Deeper journal still rolling along. Jimmy needed to kind of get out of his podcast recording schedule so he can get his butt in gear and help kind of get that going. And you've been wonderful throughout this process. It's been fun watching you as a first-time author. I'm real excited, guys. Come back in 2022. We're going to have so much to say about that book, so stay tuned. But today, here in episode 48, what is the last topic of 2021? What are we talking about?
The responsible thing to do is not always easy.
Yes. And it's not always easy, but it's always worth it if it's the responsible thing. So real excited to get into that here in just a moment. OneStepDeeperPodcast.com is the website. Go check us out over there, you guys. We have all the past episodes embedded, the video and the audio both there. And really, you could just go use the search feature, put in any keyword that we've talked about, and you will find that show. When I'm doing the videos for this show, and Brittany will mention, oh, yeah, we talked about that. And you'll say the name or the topic. And I'm like, all right, go look it up. And I put in that little topic and the comment there. So it's pretty easy to find it there at OneStepDeeperPodcast.com. We're also debuting these on Sundays at 4 p.m. on YouTube. So go type in a keyword, One Step Deeper. You will find the show there. It also simulcasts over on the Instagram video page as well as on Facebook. I got it right this week, see? And so we do that also at 4 p.m. Eastern time on Sundays. Then it's a traditional podcast on Mondays, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, Alexa, pretty much wherever you listen to podcasts. Go check it out there. Listen to it. Although I think the video gives a different dynamic. Brittany and I give it like facial signals to each other. It's kind of fun to watch our dynamic when we're doing the show. And then finally, leave us a review. If you like the show, you hate the show, we don't care what you think about the show. Just tell us what you think and go leave us a review. So, yeah, let's go out with a bang. This is the last episode of the year, 48 episodes in, and I feel like we're just getting started with what we have potentially to talk about. So let's get into this one here today. Why don't you just start us off? Why are we talking about this?
I don't really remember like the initial conversation when we were coming up with topics. I don't remember where it came from, but it is a hard thing. And of course, Brittany has her hot take on the other side of the typical. But I mean, just like the statement, it is what it is. It could be a one-liner. It really could, without going one step deeper. The responsible thing, it's not always easy. That's a one-liner. And as I was kind of thinking and pondering of what are we going to talk about, that's when I was like, oh, let's go to the other side of that. So here's the thing. Some bad decisions disguise themselves as the responsible thing. And so we're talking like the responsible thing to do within society. And guys, 100% I'm talking to me. This is me. This episode is for me. Is do the chores or exercise or eat this way or do that thing. And that's the responsible thing to do, to take care of yourself by doing X, Y, Z. But in the end, is it the responsible thing to do to get up and do all these house chores and go to work for 12 hours a day and grind, and then crash? Is that the responsible thing to do? And so then you have to look at, yes, the responsible thing isn't always easy, but you have to frame what is responsible.
Well, and who gets to determine that too? That's the thing. It's like societally right now, we're being told you need to take an action in order to be responsible as a citizen. And a lot of people have chosen not to do that action. I don't have to enumerate on what I'm talking about. Everybody knows what I'm saying here, but and not to make it about that, but that's an example of, well, to do that action, that is the responsible thing to do. And it's like, who said? Who made that kind of a requisite? And even within our own lives, think about those things that you think are the responsible thing. Why do you believe that? Was it because someone told you? Like you were told, oh, we're going to get into you now. You were told as a new mom, this is how you parent. And tell us how that went down for Miss Brittany.
Oh my gosh. It was a nightmare. My first 2 years of parenting was an absolute nightmare. And then add Darcy in, who was colic, it was even more of a nightmare. I just remember being so desperate after 4 years of just surviving and like feeling I was up to my neck in doing what everybody else told me to do, and you have to feed them this way, and you have to make organic, homemade, make it yourself baby food, and you have, oh no, you can't do that, oh, it's baby led weaning, nope, can't do that, you got to do this. And it's just like, it was just onslaught of everything. And it's like, how can I be the responsible parent and hit all of these things that everybody else is telling me to do? Because is it responsible to do all of these different things that people tell us to do and be that way? Yeah, it was a nightmare until I was like, nah, I think I'll figure this out for myself. Thank you for your opinions, but no thanks.
Well, and there it is. I think society likes to put the responsibilities on us, that you have this onus on you to conform to, let's just face it, conventional wisdom about how things are. If you're going to do this thing, then this is the way you do it, and there's no other way to do it. There's no outside the box thinking. I'm sorry, I'm too individual of a person to ever go within the boxes of conventional wisdom. I like to color outside the boxes and go take a detour all over here, and then maybe come back and say, hey guys, just thought I'd say hi again. I'm going to leave the box again. And it's a nonconformist doesn't like kind of the responsible thing. And I know responsible thing kind of has this halo over it as well. Well, it's the responsible thing. It's the right thing to do. Oh, it's just the right thing, and there's no other way. And if you go outside of that, you're a bad person.
Oh my gosh, this episode is so for me. Like, I can't help but talk about Enneagram here. So, Enneagram, I believe that was episode 6. We go way in depth, way back then. But my Enneagram type is a 1, and we're basically known for being the rule followers. And when you're talking about responsibility, that kind of goes hand in hand with there's a rule, and it's the responsible thing to follow the rule. And so, in my childhood, my early teens, early 20s, I was looking for the rule. Like, I would look for approval by doing the responsible thing. But it wasn't until I realized the responsible thing for this person is not the same as the responsible thing for this person. You know, my dad and I were kind of joking around. He was saying that in his philosophy, he would rather have zero expectations going into something. He would rather expect the worst than expect the best, because he doesn't want to set himself up for failure.
Right.
My stepmom, who is the Enneagram 9, who is positive everything and like wants to fix everything. We love her. She's like, no, you can't do that. You have to think positive. And that's when Dad was like, no, I don't.
And she's married to your dad, so you got a 9 and a 1 together.
Oh yes, but like, and I was like, I'm the same way. I would rather set myself up with zero expectations. And that's the responsible thing for me. Whereas Amy, sorry, I didn't mean to use her name, but her name is Amy. Amy go into a situation, she might need to look at the positive side of things. And that's the responsible thing for her to do, as look at the situation positively, because it's going to get her through. Whereas me, I got to go in neutral. I got to go in like fully neutral, not up here, not down here. I got to be neutral. and then we'll see where the outcome comes. And that's the responsible thing for me, and apparently my dad as well.
Yeah, I feel like there is so much subjectability that can come into play here. And because of that, somebody might judge you because they don't think you're being very responsible. You're not doing the responsible thing according to their standard.
Right.
But the standard that you choose for yourself, which you just enumerated, is more of a neutral position, whereas someone could say, well, the responsible thing is to think the worst is going to happen, like your dad, and then like Amy, thinking only the best things will happen. And so like that's three different dichotomies of schools of thought here, that if one person looked in and saw what you're doing, that's irresponsible. You're not doing the responsible thing. Man, how do we get along with all those mindsets about responsible things?
We stop worrying about everybody else's opinion
Yes.
and only worry about our own. I mean, but see, like, and doing the responsible thing based on anybody else's perception can get you into deep trouble. I have a really close friend of mine who, by society standards, did the right thing for 20 years, and it fucked them over quite royally. Okay? I don't need to say names, but, you know, you can figure it out.
Yeah.
But, it's not fair. It's not fair when people walk through their life doing the responsible thing because somebody told them that's what the responsible thing is, and so they never look within and self-check themselves and have self-awareness of what is the responsible thing for me. This morning, I woke up. I've been running again because I need it. I need it for my mental health. It ain't about all the chatter. I literally let the chatter in of people talking me out of running because, oh my God, you're going to sacrifice your game if you run. But I don't run for calorie burn or fitness, or I run because it shuts my brain off. So for me, the responsible thing to do is get my ass outside and run to get this brain chilled. But this morning I woke up and had some really strong pulling and pain in my side, in my right hip, in my back. And so there's two sides of it. I could, go outside, possibly injure myself more and not be able to run for weeks, or I could take a break. And that was the responsible thing to do, for me to check in with myself, be self-aware enough to know the pain's not too bad. But if I go outside and do what this side of my brain is telling me the responsible thing is, if I do that, I'm going to further injure myself. So I take a minute, self-check, and go this way and go, nope, this is the responsible thing to do. So really, when we're talking about the responsible thing is not always easy, we almost could say figuring out the responsible thing to do is not always easy.
Yes. Or which version of responsible, figuring that out. Like that's the big monkey wrench now that we're kind of introducing here today. Maybe people have up until now thought, okay, there is a responsible thing. And it's like, it's situational, it's individual. You can't really put any kind, and look, don't morally judge people for what they feel in their heart of hearts and the conviction that they have about what they think is being responsible. Okay, it doesn't match up with our ideals, but that doesn't mean it's not responsible for them.
And that's the secret sauce. Like, that's the secret sauce of something that I talk with people all the time. Like, why are you worried about it? Why are you worried about other people's opinions and what they think is best for you? I think about my mom right now, and she's going through some things, and she's starting something new, and she's so excited about it. But you know how family members are. They plant those little seeds in your ear of doubt, and they think they're doing the responsible thing by making sure that you've thought this through.
Yeah.
But in reality, they're destroying any amount of excitement that you have when they say those things to her. But she has had to tread lightly, and honestly, she's had to cut all that off, set the boundaries. I wonder where she got that from. Set the boundaries and move forward with the responsible thing to do, because she's checked herself and knows no matter what people say, I know this is the right thing for me to do. I'm going to follow this path.
You mentioned earlier about being stuck in a responsible situation. And sometimes that responsibility or that thing that we think is the responsible thing to do is the exact opposite of what we need to be doing. And so if you're stuck in that because you feel like it's the responsible thing to do, but you're still miserable, you're still not getting the benefits from it, like that, pay attention to clues. I don't think the responsible thing to do no, it's not easy, but it's not meant to continue misery. I think that's a huge warning sign that maybe the thing you think is the responsible thing to do, and it's not easy, but it's never resolving, is because it's not the responsible thing to do. And we see this a lot in relationships. We see it a lot in jobs, staying at a job over a period of time. We see it a lot in the way we live our lives. You had to throw away everything in your own life. You had to chunk how you used to parent. You had to chunk how you used to teach kids in homeschool. Like, things can change. And all those things you did previously, you thought were the responsible thing to do because, again, conventional wisdom says this is what you do. Whereas you figure out, hey, wait a minute, there's a better way. And I will argue a more responsible way.
Yeah, I think right now something that's coming top of mind is that old saying, gotta be the bigger person. What is the bigger person? Just like, what is the, people will say the responsible thing to do is just be the bigger person. What does that equal, being the bigger person? Is that stepping back and letting somebody that's injuring you or talking negatively about you, to your family, is just a toxic behavior? Is the bigger responsible thing to do to walk away from the situation and never say anything and never call them out? I mean, and these are individual situations. I'm not saying there's a solid answer. I just know each situation has to be measured appropriately. But for me, being the responsible person sometimes equals communicating to somebody that they've done something that has hurt me or hurt this person and not allow it to continue. Have you ever thought about that?
I have not, but that's pretty profound.
Wow. Yeah, because you think about, a lot of people are like, be the bigger person, don't say anything, walk away, just leave it alone. And sometimes I'm that way. I am. Depending on what it is. I'm not going to waste my breath on a situation. But if someone's consistently harming and being toxic in your circle and you can't get away from them, they have to be in your circle. Those we all have those people we can't get away from. Sometimes you have to call them out, and that's the responsible thing to do, to say, I will not let you treat me this way. I will not let you treat this person this way. I will not let you speak this way. I just won't let you.
And sometimes the responsible thing to do is protecting the people around you. It's not just an individual thing. Look, you've got 3 little munchkins, you've got a husband. Like, sometimes you have to do the responsible thing, not just for Brittany's sake, but for Wildman and all those 3 beautiful girls of yours. Like, they need you to be doing the responsible thing. And no, sometimes it won't be easy. Sometimes you sacrifice relationships in the process of doing the responsible thing because they themselves don't understand why you're doing what you're doing. Man, this thing goes really deep. I know you said at the beginning it's not really something to go one step deeper on. I'm glad we are, because maybe people don't go beyond that. Well, of course you do the responsible thing. Of course it's the right thing to do. Of course it's not easy, blah, blah, blah. It might seem axiomatic, but like, when you really go one step deeper on this one, there's a lot to peel back.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and I think it's important that we mention that when we're talking about being responsible, doing the responsible thing, taking responsibility, it's not the same as accountability. So, for example, and I think I've even mentioned this in past podcasts before, I know it's in the book, just there's your little preview. I know it's in the book. Will Smith talks about this idea that, no, what happened to you wasn't your fault. You're not accountable. You don't have to be held accountable for what happened to you, but it is your responsibility to take action because of. And so it's kind of the same thing. Again, it's all situational, but what happened to me in my life and what happened to Jimmy in his life, we're not held accountable for that. We did nothing wrong. But it absolutely is our responsibility to pick up the pieces. I mean, let's be honest, to pick up the pieces of what everybody has told us, all the inner chatter, all the lies, all the beliefs that we believe only because somebody told us to believe them. It is our responsibility to take all those pieces and make something out of it, and throw out the pieces that don't fit and put back things that matter and that build us into better people. Like, that's where the responsibility stands in. Is that easy? Hell no, it is not easy. Picking apart every lie that you've believed about yourself or every situation you've ever walked in your life, and just even peeling apart, the layers of your story that you just learned a year ago. The layers of my story I just learned like a month ago, of like, whoa, that blew my mind about the narratives we tell ourselves. And I'm going to go ahead and foreshadow. Stay tuned for the beginning of the year, because that's what we're going to go in on episode 1. We're going to talk about the narratives that we tell ourselves. Okay. Sorry about that. I had to plug that in there.
That's all right. That's the very next episode in the new year. But yeah, I think about when you got diagnosed with ADHD, like that was mind blowing, because up until that point, all these things that you thought were the responsible thing to do, you were looking at them through the prism of, why do I feel this way? Why do I view the world this way? Why do I think this way? Why am I the way I am? And then that came into your worldview, and now you're doing all this, like everything researching, and it's like, holy crap, that's the way I am because of the ADHD and the adaptations to that. Like, the responsible thing changes once you have context. And that's been beautiful to watch in you over these past few months.
Yeah, I love how you said that. The responsible thing is never cut and dry. It's not black and white. I think that's what we're trying to say. It's not this way or that way. It can be this and this or that. There's so many intricacies here. But yeah, when I got the diagnosis, everything made sense of things in my past. But now I don't just say, well, I can't do that because I have ADHD. I never allowed it to be a crutch. I don't like that as a word, but y'all know what I'm saying. I didn't use it as an excuse. I was like, okay, an obstacle. It's my responsibility now to take this and empower myself with knowing, you know what? I do forget to eat. I just straight up forget. I will be so busy that I forget to eat. And the feeling of hunger only comes on when it's so strong that it overpowers all of my other emotions. And so then I'm binging, and this is a cycle. And in order to take responsibility of that cycle, I did something. Maybe other people look at it and go, that's ridiculous. But for me, it's the responsible thing to do. I set a timer for myself so that I remember to eat. Because it's a real problem that I don't sense hunger until it's too late. And so I set a timer, and that may be ridiculous to you. You're like, how you forget to eat, like normal people who's not have ADHD might not be a problem. But the responsible thing for me is I've looked at the patterns of myself. I'm self-aware enough to know I need a little help in that area. And then I find something to help me.
Yes.
Buddy, I gotta tell y'all about something. This fancy little drink right here. This only has 3 ingredients: water, ice, and element. I'm so excited to be partnered with Element right now for the One Step Deeper podcast. Oh my God, let me tell you. Look at all these gorgeous electrolytes. They have so many delicious flavors, but my absolute favorite, and the one you saw me sipping on, was the citrus one, because let me tell you, it's like sipping on a margarita. So good. So if you're interested in trying these amazing electrolytes for yourself, you can go to drinklmnt.com/Jimmy for your free sample there. No, seriously, it's a free sample. All you have to do is pay the shipping. You got to try these, I'm telling you. So good.
So I want to throw a curveball in this conversation, because that's always where we get good content. So I think the reason why people don't choose to do the responsible thing is because it's not easy.
Right.
And we've always talked about this. We're very naturally inclined to avoid pain, to avoid discomfort. And so if we know going in that the responsible thing to do is not easy, people will just refuse to do the responsible thing. Then what happens in society and individually when that happens, Brittany?
Oh, you're lazy, you're terrible, you're a horrible person, and it just becomes a cycle.
And does that change their mind at all? Does that convince those people who already didn't want to do the hard thing, already didn't want to take responsibility, does having all those insults thrown at them make them want to? So it's kind of funny that it almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that people label you those things. Then they say all these things to you. You really weren't motivated to do the responsible thing anyway. And now all the more you don't. And so you're labeled that in life. And it's like, that might not be a you at all. Whereas if somebody said, I know it's hard, but let me tell you, I've been through that. I have survived that. I did the responsible thing despite it being difficult and despite it not being very easy. But now look at what the benefits I got for doing that responsible thing. I think that would then convince people, and then look, maybe they go and become something in this world that we all benefit from.
I feel like I had the unique opportunity to be around people who avoided the responsible thing. And I saw what happened when you avoid doing the responsible thing.
Yes.
When you avoided setting boundaries, when you avoid saying no to people that you really need to say no to, when you avoid having controversial opinions because it might upset somebody. I watched everybody, and I'm an observant person. It's kind of why I like personal development. Like, I've just watched the people in my life, and I would say that I had that unique opportunity to see what plays out afterwards. And I didn't want that to happen to me. So I tried to do the opposite thing. Have I always succeeded at it? No, of course not. I'm a human being. I haven't always succeeded. But the more I move through life, the more I realize that's it. Like, I want to do the responsible thing, even if it is unbelievably hard, because in the moment it's hard. In the short term it's hard, but in the long term, the benefits that pay, the dividends that pay from being responsible are magnificent. They're so big. And so the pain, as hard as it is to frame it this way, the pain becomes worth it because of the end game.
I think about David Goggins in this realm. Like, dude, he knew he put himself through the ringer trying to do the right thing on purpose. Exactly. He purposely did that just so he could say, you know what? I'm going to prove to myself the strength that I have within. And it's something I often tell people in my own work now is do the hard things, do the responsible things, even though they're not easy, because at the other side of it, you're going to be so appreciative of the lessons you learned because of the hard. You're not going to take for granted that doing the right thing is always going to be this easy ride. You're going to have a more fulfilled life because of the challenge of being doing the responsible thing. The challenge is the benefit that you get out of it.
Yes. And it builds resistance just as if you were exercising. Yeah. And so doing the responsible thing, each time you may level up and have to do something a little bit harder, but eventually it just becomes easy. Me setting boundaries with people when I very first started, very hard. It was a very hard thing to do for me to start telling people no and setting boundaries of no, I won't be there, no, I won't do that, or no, I can't do that, or just saying no. That was extremely hard for me in the beginning. But now, no, I would give you a boundary in a second. I don't even think about it because I know it's the responsible thing for me to do. But it wasn't easy at the beginning. But the more I did it, just like David Goggins, like reading his book can't hurt me for anybody who hasn't read it. It just, and watching what he purposely put himself through over and over and over and over again. And he said the same thing every time. Yeah, it sucks. It hurt. It was painful. But on the other side of that, that's when I realized nobody can mess with me. Nobody, his little term he says all the time is stay hard. And I'm like, damn, I want to be like that. I want to be like that when nobody can get to me. What they say, what they do, physically, what happens to me, I am not there. I am not even close. Like, I'm going to fall apart when I got some pain and I can't do what I want to do. Okay, I'm not there. But following him and seeing how he's done the responsible thing for him, which is push himself and push himself and push himself to get to where he is, like, that's inspiring. I'm sorry, I'm going in today.
Yeah, and I love what you said about doing the responsible thing and going through the hard thing then makes the next thing that's the responsible thing and the hard thing easier and easier and easier, and even leveling up, like you said, and you have to even make it even more. And look, I think too much is given, much is expected out of you. Same thing. Like, when you start taking on this onus of being responsible and doing the right thing, doing the responsible thing, I think bigger things are expected of you. Like, you've done a lot of work on yourself for 3.5, almost into 4 years now. And the Brittany today, here in the very last episode of 2021, is a far different creature than you were in 2018 when all this kind of fell in your lap and you started from scratch.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of it, that doing the responsible thing was like, all right, I've seen what people look like. I see where their lives go when they don't tackle their shit. And so, almost 4 years ago, I made the decision. It's time to tackle my shit. Okay. I'm not going to sit here in this trauma anymore. I'm not going to let it overtake me. I'm going to do the responsible thing, which was unbelievably hard then. And it's still hard. It just, because I think personal development is something that never really ends. There's always something that can be better. And so even if you take a break and a pause, there's always something to go back in on. And so it's been a beautiful journey for me to look back and go, wow. And so I think that's why now those things become easier and easier and easier. Doing the responsible thing becomes easier because I've been on the other side of what making that decision looks like. And so I know personally that even if I have to cry about it and be upset about it for a second, I know in a little bit it's going to feel amazing.
Well, and just in the time that we've been friends, which is just over 2.5 years, I have seen you blossom from where you were. And it's because you were willing to take on the hard things that were the responsible thing. And yeah, you might have kicked and screamed a little bit along the way, as have you seen me do the same thing. Taking responsibility is not really an option. You have to do it if you want to progress in your life. All the things we talk about here about personal development and going one step deeper in your life cannot happen until you take responsibility and do the things and be willing to go hard. Like when we are writing our book right now, we're talking to you, and when we don't mince words by design, we want you to feel that pressure of you need to do the right thing and take responsibility, and it's going to be hard. Out of it, like we've been talking about, it's going to be so worth it.
Right. And listen, you gave me a little bit of praise, which I'm not good with. I don't give praise, not because I don't love it, not because I don't love the people, but it's a difficult thing for me. But I'm gonna step out my comfort zone. I'm gonna do it. I just want to say, same to you, Jimmy. Like when we first became friends and we started talking, like we both were just in such different places, and I've watched you take responsibility. I've watched you make unbelievably difficult decisions that, in the end, some may say that hurt you. But I know that the decisions that you've made has made you a better person and has got you so much further in life. And it's not even in this moment that you're reaping benefits from those decisions. It's to come. It's to come of all the benefits that you're going to reap from making that responsible decision. It didn't make sense to anybody else, but it made sense to you. And like, that's a big deal. And so anybody that's listening right now, maybe you're hesitant about making a decision that you feel is the responsible thing to do, but it's really freaking hard. Do it. It's going to suck. It's going to feel hard. It's not going to be easy, but think about a month from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, where are you going to be then?
I am loving that, because we're in an instant gratification society where if I do X, I need to see Y like right away. And life isn't that way. Sometimes it's X, which is a down payment on Y, which happens 5 years from now. And you got to be okay with that. But people aren't. People just want that instant gratification. And it's okay, I'm going to do this. I need to see this happen. And we all have examples in our own lives where we do X. Y, where are you? And we're looking for that to come.
I didn't eat the candy bar today. Why haven't I lost 10 pounds?
Yes.
Yes, that is me. But speaking of candy bars, shameless plug. You guys have seen my new cup, right, from Element. They sent me this. I don't know if did you get yours? No.
I haven't mine yet, no.
Okay, they have a new flavor. I'm so sorry. I have to talk about it, okay? Chocolate. It's mint chocolate. It is phenomenal. But unfortunately, they're not selling it yet. So in the meantime, while you're waiting for this flavor to come out, now, by the time this airs, it probably will be on sale. Yes, but make sure you go. I'm so serious. Go try this product. I don't talk about things unless I love them, but the responsible thing for you to do right now. I'm just kidding. Seriously, go check it out. It's drinkelement.com/Jimmy. Go get you a free sample pack to try all the other flavors. But when this one comes out, do yourself a favor. Sorry I put that in there, but
you spell LMNT instead of element. Yeah.
Thank you. But Wow, so good. I threw that one in there, I know, but
Oh, you surprised me, and you love that mug too, that Yeti mug. So
well, I feel like everybody was seeing it. If you're watching the video, you're seeing it. I needed to talk about it. Okay, I just had to share my experience with you guys.
yes, yes. So on this topic, maybe people are getting this now. Maybe they're saying, okay, I get it. The responsible thing is going to be a little bit hard. It's not going to be easy, but there's still something within them that holds them back. What's the fear? What are the fears that people have? Is it of messing up? Is it of maybe I chose the wrong thing where other people have defined the responsible? What is it that's keeping people from this?
I mean, there's layers there for sure. Obviously, one of them is fear of rejection.
Yeah.
It's such a human thing, and it's nothing that we should feel bad about. But it's such a human thing for us to avoid rejection, even if that means it costs us ourselves. We will avoid rejection by changing who we are, like in molding ourselves to fit into other people's definitions, just because we want to feel loved. And that kind of, I could refer you guys back to the self-love episode where we're talking about what that equals, and you have to learn to love yourself and not look for that validation outside of yourself. But seriously, people want that. Like, I don't want to feel rejected. There's people in my life that if I ended up getting rejected by them, like, I'm going to be a puddle of a person. I'm not going to be in a good place. And so I fear that. But at the same time, I've become so important to myself. I know it sounds kind of self-righteous, but like, I'm so important to me that I must honor my boundaries. I must do the responsible thing for me, even if that means it costs me time with the people that I love, or it cost something to do the responsible thing.
And the responsible thing, you will lose if you do it. You will lose friends. You will lose contacts. Like you and me both have plenty of examples of where doing the right thing did not serve us in that area, but in a way it did. It got rid of some dead weight in our lives. I got to see very crystal clear who my real friends were when I did the responsible thing in my own life. In a decision that I made, I lost a bunch of friends, and it is what it is. Like I look back on it now and I go, you know what? That was beneficial. Even though it hurt at the time, even though it was not easy at the time, I now can look back and kind of go, wow, those people were never my friends anyway, if they would up and leave me over a decision that I made that was the right thing, the responsible thing to do. And like, in hindsight, I can look back and go, it was the hardest thing, one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, but it was the best damn thing I've ever done in my life.
The people who are offended by someone doing the responsible thing have likely never done the responsible thing in their life. I mean, that's just the hard truth of it, that I know what it's like to make those difficult decisions that don't look right to anybody else. When Wyman and I moved to this house, nobody knew. Nobody knew our finances. Nobody knew. But from the outside looking in, we lived in a single wide trailer in the middle of nowhere. And so from an outsider looking in, they view us a certain way. I didn't care. I didn't care how people saw us. I knew what was going on behind the scenes. And so when we pick out our beautiful 2-story house, 45 minutes away from where I grew up and my family and the security of my family, that scared people. They're like, you can't do that. I literally heard people tell me it was not responsible for me to move my family outside of that small town. I heard, you're going to mess up your life. You have no support out there. You're going to be all on your alone. Are you going to be able to afford that? And I just had to close my ears to it. I just had to shut it off and go, I cannot listen to your chatter. I cannot listen to your opinion on this matter. The responsible thing for me was to get the hell out of the town where I was sexually, mentally, physically, emotionally abused. That was the best. Moving to where I am now, regardless of that, getting out of that town that had been the definition of the toxicity in my life for so long, this is the best thing that I could have ever done for me, my children, my husband. To hell with anybody else that's got anything to say about it. And I would like to say it wasn't easy to go in with our our theme here, but this was the easiest decision I ever made. Sayonara, bitches.
Although I will add some context here a little bit. You had trouble when you moved into the house. Mentally, you were having a little bit of second guessing about it, even though you loved the house and everything was kind of going. You were kind of going, did I really want to? And even in the decision to leave, there was a little bit of what is the responsible thing, because your husband wasn't necessarily a fan of moving away from the hometown. He was happy, he was comfortable, and yet it did work out. And yes, it's easy now, but I will tell you, I remember when you moved in, it was post the hospital stay, and you had doubts at the time of, was it the responsible thing? Is it going to be easy? And yeah, it worked out for you because you kind of got yourself in that mindset of, yeah, I like this house a lot better than that trailer.
Right. I want to bring up something that my dad talks about a lot, and he's like, my gut's not wrong. My gut's not wrong. Like my mind might be wrong, but my gut's not wrong. And honestly, that's where it was. My mind was 100 miles an hour. My mind said it wasn't easy. My gut knew it was easy, like making that decision. And so I think a lot of people, when we're talking about doing the responsible thing, your head might tell you it's not the responsible thing, but your gut knows. You know what the right decision is. And some people have not listened to their body and listened to their gut for so long, it might be hard to hear because it might be a whisper. But that's where that self-awareness comes in. You have to be self-aware to know what the responsible thing is for you. And I knew walking into this decision, even though my mind was falling apart and I was second guessing and all of these emotions. Your mind is where your emotions are, okay? All those emotions, a million miles an hour about this decision. But in the end, I knew this is the best thing that I've ever done for us.
Keto can be hard. Tabulating, measuring, baking, taking 3 months to perfect one recipe, and to mixed reviews.
Did something die in here? Oh, I think it moved.
And by that point, you give up your diet, find a dark corner, and stuff yourself with sugar, carbs, and regret.
This, isn't what it looks like.
Well, this is where Keto Chow saves the day. The easiest, tastiest, ketoist meal replacement on the market.
It's like ice cream melted in my mouth.
Yes, but melted ice cream with all the protein, nutrients, vitamins, and electrolytes your body needs.
Oh, that's cool.
And with 3 starter kits, each with restaurant tips, keto food guides, and a ton of flavors to try, your taste buds and your waistline will thank you.
Thank you.
So grab your starter kit today at jimmylovesketochow.com.
It's so easy.
Keto Chow. Make keto easy.
And it was a little bit harder for you because you were so close to having been out of the hospital. You had all that on your mind as well. So where you are in your life also will determine how hard or how easy these responsible things are. But now looking back at it in retrospect, over a year later, you're really happy and you're really glad. And I think a lot of your healing from getting out of the hospital, a lot of the mental things that you went through from that, I think being in that house made it so much better. I've thought about this. I've not articulated it to you publicly or privately, but I'll do it publicly right now. Because you got in that house and it was so new, and then you got to now give your babies like this big space. This is your house. It's going to be the house you grew up in and blah, blah, blah. I think that did some stuff for your brain that helped you process all that happened to you personally. Whereas if you had to go back to that trailer and the tight living quarters you were in, I don't think you would be where you are right now in November of 2021 in the headspace you're in.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I knew, so the complexity of what was going on, just for context for everybody, not only was I living in a small home, the small home was owned by my dad and my stepmom. I basically grew up there and I didn't have a good relationship with my dad. So I was living in the home where I had a non-existent relationship with my dad. Constant trigger, constant walking around in the same rooms, constant trigger. And the house was located on family land on the exact location where I was sexually abused as a child. Constant trigger, constant. Now, I don't regret doing that because I was in that location for 3 years, and it was in that location that I decided enough was enough. I will not live like this anymore. I decided in that home, in that low of low spaces, people looking in, you can have your opinions. I don't care what people think about me anymore. But I was at my lowest point in that house. I was my heaviest weight. I was my saddest. I was most depressed, most anxious in that house, in that location. And I couldn't get out right away. And the responsible thing, like, even though I wanted to reap the benefit, I wanted the moment, I wanted the microwave, I had to get out of there, I knew. But like the slow process of just putting in the work, responsible over and over again, saving money, making those decisions, the little tiny decisions just inched me closer and closer and closer. And that, so when the moment got here and I got to move and I got to reap the benefit of doing the responsible thing for 3 years, and then I got to, and honestly more than that, but just hard in for 3 years. When I got to this point, it was hard. It was hard. Let me tell you something else. So I've been kind of diving in on this. I did the responsible thing. Let's talk about the fallout after doing the responsible thing. And because I did struggle mentally, because I didn't feel like I deserved the benefit. I felt like, yeah, I did this thing. I put in all this work. I did all this stuff. I wrote this book. I did this podcast. I got this house. I got this awesome husband. I got these wonderful kids, but I don't deserve it. Even though I've done all the responsible things and I followed all the rules and I did the path and I did the thing, I done the personal development, I still sit back and I'm like, I don't deserve this. And so the responsible thing for me to do now is go, where does that come from? We got to address that now.
By the way, Brittany, you don't deserve me as a best friend. So I'm just saying, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Vice versa, my friend.
She does that to me all the time, you guys. When I say, you know, you're really awesome. She's like, I know, I'm really awesome, ain't I? And I'm like, yeah. But you mentioned something in there about the delayed gratification of doing the responsible thing. So for you, saving up to be in that house you're in now, and meanwhile, everybody just assumed things about you. But meanwhile, you had this deep desire to do the right thing and to take the responsibility. So that meant waiting and waiting and waiting. And people don't do well with that. That was the not easy part for you guys, especially for you, because you had such a personal negative connection to that trailer, that property you were on, all the things. And so for you, that took a lot of strength. And like now you're reaping the benefits of that, doing the responsible thing, being patient, doing the hard things, and even though it wasn't easy. And now, like, you're like, holy crap, I did that. What else can I do? What else can I be responsible for? And look, you're doing a podcast with your best friend, and you phenomenal edit, and you're writing a book with me. Well, and we're going to come out with that early next year. Like there's things that because you did the responsible thing, it's now cascading into more things, even at a higher plane, so that your whole moniker of becoming Brittany Lee is actually coming to fruition.
Absolutely. And I love that. So as you were like kind of laying that out, I was like, damn, I did the David Goggins thing. I made a decision to put myself in Trigger City, constantly triggered all day long, every single day, looking out the same windows and seeing the same landscape where I got, abused. Like it did something to me. It was an extremely difficult time in my life to make that decision, but I regret absolutely nothing. No, it is not like David Goggins putting himself through all he put himself through. Okay. It is not. There's a beast, but mentally it was there. Mentally putting myself through that. But I regret absolutely nothing from that decision. Where I am today, I still struggle. I just got off of a 2-week really bad struggle, guys. But it was only 2 weeks, not 2 years. Mm-hmm. And for that, I'm really grateful. And so, yeah, when you're making the decision to do the responsible thing, know that in the moment, if it's not easy, even if it still doesn't feel easy a month later or a year later, there will be a moment when you look back and thank yourself for making that decision. And you're proud of yourself. And then you ask that important question, what can I do now? Look at what I did. What can I do now? And that's where I sit, watching this episode 48, guys. Who would have thunk that Brittany could do this? Jimmy's done this like 3,000 times.
He's 3,000, but like, yeah. I knew when we decided to do this concept for a podcast that you would be phenomenal. And it was the responsible thing for me to tell you that as someone who is a veteran podcaster. I can do this in my sleep. It's no big deal. But for you, you didn't see your potential until I like nagged you about it enough that you're like, do it. And we did the like test episode just about a year ago. We did the test episode just to throw it out there. And you're like, at the end of that recording, you're like, let's do another one. That was awesome. And it was like, I got her.
It was so awesome. But, let's look at that story. I mean, you've told your story here on the podcast, and I know on your personal podcast, but like, dude, I can't imagine the backlash you must have gotten for starting a podcast 15, 16 years ago. It's not like it is today. Podcasts are very big deal. I would say everybody knows what they are, but not everybody knows what they are. But most people do know what a podcast is. But heck, I didn't really learn what a podcast was till a few years ago myself. And now I'm an avid listener. I listen to all I love the podcast. But 15 years ago, when people were looking in, like, what the hell's a podcast, Jimmy? But you knew within your gut, walking away from your 9 to 5 or whatever hours it was, walking away from that position to move into what felt the responsible thing for you to do. It just, that conviction, like you had to do it. You had to follow through on that. And now you have the best friend ever. I'm just kidding.
And I concur, you are the best friend ever. So yeah, you're right. When I started, like, I really didn't have any intentions when I started, other than I knew I wanted another medium to get the word out, because I was blogging and there really weren't social media at the time. And yeah, podcasts really weren't a big thing at the time. But I kind of said, hey, I need this release. I have all this pent up passion and energy to talk about a subject that's got me jazzed. How can I not talk about it? And so the responsible thing to do was, okay, I'm not qualified. I don't know how to talk. I don't know how to do this, but I did it anyway. And it wasn't easy, because I'm like, okay, I'm doing all this. I'm not really trying to do it for money. It was just for funsies. And then it became into something that was not funsies, or it was funsies still, but it was not just for funsies. It was, I could make money off this. I could communicate messages, and then everybody gets an iPhone and everybody has access. And then boom, all these podcasts now become very well listened to. And I'm going, holy crap, that thing that started off as a responsible thing to kind of get the message out became something bigger than I ever imagined it would be.
Same. I started this journey for me. And, Brittany's got big dreams, okay? I am a very big dreamer. And what has happened now, what has been brought into fruition by continuously making the responsible decision for me, I want to clarify there, because people looking in might not think that what I'm doing is it. And that's okay. I don't need their opinions. That's for them. That's their negative behaviors. I don't care. But even where it is now, I know where it's going. I have confidence in where it's going, but I started this journey for me. I started personal development for me, just as you started your journey so many years ago for you. And along the way, you're like, oh my God, this changed my life. I have to talk about it. And so I literally have changed my life from the ground up in doing all this work. And then the podcast and the book and, the things to come in the future. It's huge to know. Yeah, and here you go. The responsible thing in the moment, hard AF, okay, but like the benefits down the road, if you can focus on down the road instead of right here in front of you, you gotta put your long distance glasses on, guys, okay? You gotta think light years ahead of where you are currently. Don't look at the step in front of you, just so far ahead of you. Take the one step every single day. I think about, I met this guy recently named Mr. Jerry. 70-year-old man just signed up to run another marathon. He's ran 20 in his lifetime.
Whoa.
And he's incredible. And I was just talking to him, just so lit up by listening to him and what he's done in his life. And he says, first 5 miles of the marathon, miserable. After that, he coasted. And you would think the first 5 miles, it would, if you struggle the first 5 miles, the rest of it's going to be even more miserable. But he said after 5 miles, you just kind of coast, you just kind of sit in and then you make it and then you're there. He said, but it takes one step at a time. And so all of this, one responsible decision at a time, closer, inching closer to that further distance.
Yes. Whew. What a topic for the final episode of 2021 here in episode 48. Doing the responsible thing. It's not always going to be easy, but I hope by this time in the podcast you've learned it may not be easy, but it's always going to be worth it. So you put in the effort and you reap those benefits. All right, take us home one last time
All
here.
right.
One.
Oh my gosh. I'm not gonna cry. We're coming back, Brittany. It's fine. All right, onestepdeeperpodcast.com is the website. You can find all the past episodes there. We premiere the episodes 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over on YouTube. That's where you can watch it for the first time. If you're just like a fan, a subscriber, you just want to get it before anybody else does, that's the place you can get it. You can also find the tidbits, a little snippet. We put those up as well on Instagram. I'll put them on my Instagram. They're nice, little teaser trailer, if you will. Over on Facebook and Instagram, it goes up there as well. On Facebook, it's embedded as a YouTube video, so you can click it and that'll take you over to YouTube. You can watch it there. IG video, because IGTV is no longer a thing. IG video, you can find it over there. We are a regular podcast. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Alexa. And guys, we say this every episode. Leave us a review. We love hearing from you guys. If you want to message us privately, that's okay too. Of course, we love hearing the reviews on all the different podcast platforms, but Living Low Carb Man over on Instagram, becoming.brittanylee. We love hearing from you guys. Thank you for listening. And it has been quite a 48 episodes.
Yes, yes. By the way, it's Sundays at 4 p.m. that it debuts on YouTube. You mentioned the tidbit, but then never talked about going to YouTube on Sundays at 4. So it's all good. I get back, girl. See, this is what friends do. That's what friends are for.
That's why this is a partner podcast. That's
yes. Yes. As in the one episode about a month or two ago where I started the show and Brittany's like, Jay, are we going to hit record? Because I was going and you're like, you do know we're not recording right now. I'm like, oh, dude.
Yeah.
So we got each other's back, but we have a lot of work to do, me and this little lady right here, over the next few weeks. So wish us luck as we're editing this book that we got. And I'm telling you guys, 2022, you're going to want to get a copy of the One Step Deeper journal. We have so much to come to talk about with that one. And I'm excited, Brittany. I know you are too, but I'm excited to have that and excited to come back with a brand new year. Like, I feel like you and we've hit our stride and we're really hitting topics that are hitting home with people. So gratifying to me as a longtime podcaster, because that's a big deal when you connect with your audience that way.
Yeah, I'm loving it too.
Yes, yes. All right, guys. So until next year, we'll see you then.
OneStepDeeperPodcast.com.